All right, another edition of Riding Home with Ryan Curley, Dean Leggy. Ryan, a lot of I don't know. It's football is here. I've been busy paying attention to the Oregon Ducks most of the week, but you're saying that Gunnar Stockton is going to be the Bo Nix this week, wearing number 10, Kenny. Which Kirby said today that Kenny is probably not going to be the primary kickoff return guy. I know that's been a question over at Dog Post. Forgot to turn my light on. Oh man,
Yeah, that
just
was that was a question that we've received recently.
on
Is
on the
that
board, yes.
return? That makes sense to me. With
Yeah.
Kenny being the primary back, it seems I thought that his kick return load would decrease at least a little bit. They have a bunch of guys capable of filling that role. I
Yes.
don't think that's a problem that they have. We know Kyrus Jackson, Ladd McConkey, Dominic Blaylock, all sorts of guys that have at least had punt return experience. They've got other running backs. I don't think that'll be a huge issue, if an issue at all.
Let's just talk briefly about the offensive line. Today, Broderick, then Xavier Truss at left guard, Frank Granger, Tate Ratledge, Warren McClendon. Three of those five are going to be starters. Xavier and Tate are going to be fighting with Willock, Erickson, and I think Jared Wilson. Is that what Kirby said today? I can't remember exactly who the other person is. I think he's correct, Kirby, in his critique or whatever you want to call it, criticism. Criticism may be a harsh word. Figuring out what sort of naming the starters on the offensive line. The truth is, I was talking to a former. I mean, I'm not going to say who it was. A former very, you know, in the bright lights player at Georgia not that long ago. And they just said, hey, they roll him in and out of there all the time. And I said, yeah, that's what it's looking like it's going to happen. And so the offensive line, though, is going to have to perform. I mean, you watch Oregon, they're not bad on defense. They're not great at anything. Okay, when you watch Oregon play, they are a perfectly good team. They do not have the weapons Georgia's got. I think some of the things that we heard Kirby say today are, the same concerns I have in watching Oregon. It's not the same team that may roll out there in Atlanta.
Yeah, yep. No, that's true. I think something that Stetson said today that stood out to me was how, because Oregon's had so many transfers, they've been watching so many different teams tape just to figure it out. There's a lot of moving pieces with that program, and I think that does make preparation for them particularly difficult compared to your average game of the week. Because, I mean, with a team like, let's say, in November when they're preparing for Kentucky, they know what they're dealing with a lot more than they know what they're dealing with against Oregon. New quarterback, new coach. Lanning's never been a head coach, so maybe they don't even know exactly what that looks like.
New
And most
running
of those
back.
players most of those guys are probably Mario Cristobal's guys.
Right.
But I do think that their strongest point are their linebackers.
Well, listen, they're not. This is not a bad team. I don't want people to confuse what I'm saying. They are pretty solid everywhere. Now they're going to have a different quarterback completely. I think everybody's well aware of what Bo Nix can and cannot do. They will have to replace a pretty good running back who is at SC now. I guess what I'm trying to say, and we'll talk about this more in Final Feelings, is they're not necessarily spectacular at any one thing, Oregon, and they to me seem to make mistakes or don't take advantage of the opportunities that they've got when they're playing. I mean, like, I had a pick. Sewell, I think it was Sewell, had a pick in the Washington game and really seemed to flip momentum on the Ducks for the Ducks, and they just didn't do anything with it. And then soon thereafter, Utah was blocking a kick. They never could get separation from UCLA. They had a hard time getting separation from UW. It was a rainy game. I always make excuses for the weather, but I just don't know. Look, but anyway, let's focus back on what happened at practice today. Sometimes I've really been in Oregon world here lately. Tyke Smith, that's another thing where Kirby said he named three players that are probably going to play at star, or excuse me, well, nickel, star, whatever you want to call it. Keeley and Kamari Lasser seem to be the ones at corner. Dan Jackson. Dan Jackson's the guy who's been very steady, but Malachi Starks is coming on apparently.
Yeah, I think I think we've had so many questions about the team and more specifically the defense, and I think a lot of them are starting. I think a lot of the answers are falling into place the last couple of weeks. I think to me, just when I'm watching drills, it looks like Javon Bullard is the first guy for start. But you can't. There's only so much you
Can't
can tell
tell.
with those drills.
Right.
But when in the periods we get, it looks like Javon Bullard's the starter at that spot. But I know William Poole's got the most experience at that spot out of the three in a Georgia football uniform.
No
Tyke Smith.
question.
Um,
A
that
national
I
championship game, no less, with
yeah,
William
yeah,
Poole.
exactly. So I think, and then in the linebacker room, one of the concerns was how do you replace the speed that those three guys had? Well, the guys behind them are just as fast. They just haven't played as much. Smile Mondon, in particular, is the most athletic inside linebacker that they have. I think Tresman Marshall is very fast. He can really
He is.
pop out at you. I remember one particular play at G Day where he just really flew to the ball. So I don't think that's a problem. The experience is their issue on defense. It's not talent. Um, it's experience, and we can't know how much that's actually going to hurt them until they actually play. So
Right.
that's a question that's yet to be answered. The two freshmen on defense that have popped out and shown out in this fall camp offseason has been Malachi Starks and Mike Hill-Williams.
Right.
Now, Mike Hill-Williams was a hot topic today in the press conferences. Nolan Smith, and I said something similar. I didn't say this exactly, but I said something similar to you about this last week. But Nolan Smith said he was a spitting image of Trayvon Walker. I do think they have a lot of similarities. They're not the same player, but I think there are some similarities, and that's the role that Michael Williams will be asked to play when he's on the field. I think he's a serious threat to become that starting defensive end sooner rather than later. He just looks the best in what I get to see.
Well, we're going to see. I mean, just because Trayvon isn't around doesn't mean you can't replace him. It's just going to be very challenging to replace him. Make sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION today. The link is down below. We've had a lot of folks pick it up today, which is awesome. I'm just seeing something for the first time, Ryan. I know you can't see what I'm doing. They actually had University of Georgia already on the trophy. This image was a very fortunate image, I guess you could say. All images are relatively fortunate. You got to be in the right place at the right time, right, Ryan? But I'm just seeing where they
Dude,
had the logo, the national championship already. Make sure you're picking this up, okay? Do not go into this season without this keepsake. This book's not going to get old anytime soon. 80 pages of championship coverage, photos, storytelling you're not going to see anywhere else. I was going to ask you about Mikael Williams, but you had kind of a diatribe there about that. Tight ends continue to do their thing. To me, this Georgia team, there are questions, no doubt. There are a lot more questions about the Ducks, and I think that's kind
yeah,
of the issue. They're not spectacular about any one thing. They've got, they're like 70th in offense, 70th and 50th in defense. They don't shine in a way that you really want. This is a huge, huge challenge for Oregon. And then, here you are in this practice report, and go to dogpost.com. I'll put the link below. You're missing out. Okay? You need to take advantage of these things. Everything's not free at Dogpost, but this particular report is. You say Stetson was again very accurate on his deep throws. On the running backs, Kenny McIntosh continues to be the leader in drills. Kendall Milton is noticeably huge compared to the other backs, which I think you've written many times. You couldn't tell he's been
I
dealing
know.
with it.
First thing when I look at the running backs, it's like, wow, Kendall is just. It's just he's got to get it figured out. He's got to get it figured out.
Oh, he's just got to stay healthy, man. I mean, that's it. He knows how to run the football. And then you mentioned Branson Robinson, A.D. Mitchell, Kieris Jackson. Mitchell Jackson and Lam McConkey are the quote starters. Marcus Roseman, Jack Saint, who's changed numbers. Dominique Blaylock and then Jackson Meeks are the quote two squad there. There are a lot of known knowns on the Georgia offensive side of the ball. And again, I'm sorry to keep talking about this way. When you watch Oregon play, you can hit them with particular things, Ryan. The edge on their defense gives up runs consistently. It's not what you want, so they're not setting the edge exactly the way you'd like. Utah gashed them consistently there on kickoff returns. That was a real problem a season ago, not just in the first Utah game, but in all games against Utah. And there were other teams they had issues with kickoff return. Georgia allowed 15 returns in 15 games, and the average return was at 13-yarder. That meant you were starting at the 13, Ryan. I mean, that's just the discrepancy there is crazy. You're going to get about 3 cracks in theory. Now, that's assuming Oregon scores twice, but you're going to get, in theory, 3 cracks a game at a kickoff return where Kieras is back there, or Kenny is back there, or some other guy that looks like he's on rollerblades is back there. And then there's some other stuff. If you want to throw on the Ducks, the middle of the field was a little too open for my comfort level. That just doesn't seem like a lot of fun when you have tight ends that Georgia's got. I think this is not a good matchup for Oregon.
Yeah, I think what you said. There's a lot more questions for Oregon. They're in a complete transition.
Complete.
They don't know what they are yet. And then my other thing out of what you just said, when it comes to special teams at the University of Georgia, star players are not afraid to get down and dirty on special teams. All right, we saw Zamir White make some plays. We saw Jalen Carter make huge plays. The star players matter on special teams at Georgia. That's it's just one of those little things that adds up that makes them an elite program. These starters want to play on special. They want to be great. There is a desire to be elite at Georgia, and that's one of the little ways that you see it.
Well, and I want to go back to what Kirby said today during the press conference, and he was talking about starters and all this stuff, and in the on special teams, he says this about, no, I can't find it. Oh no, here we go. He says, I'm really pleased with the work of all those guys. We say you are a starter here when you start on special teams, so all those guys will have a starting role. He was talking about Tyke Smith and Bullard and Poole. Those guys are all going to be out there. I mean, look, William Poole had I thought he played really well against Alabama in the second game against Bama. Tyke Smith was a third-string All-American 2 seasons ago. Those guys
Second.
are, second. Those guys are going to be on special teams. Okay, it is an area, particularly against Oregon, where Georgia should dominate. There are going to be opportunities to block field goals. There are going to be opportunities in the kick return game. Georgia should hurt Oregon on special teams. Now, the Dogs punters or punter, whoever that person may wind up being, is probably going to be Thorson. Is what Kirby didn't say that, but he said it was ahead today. So I'm projecting that it will probably be him. You're welcome. Got to be solid.
Yeah, I think Jake Camarda was definitely a weapon. Now, he wasn't always consistent, but there were times where you were really happy to have his leg. So they're going to have to replace that. And he was also the kickoff guy. So they're going to have to figure that out. And it sounded like the kickoff guy
they don't
is
know
going
that yet.
Zirkle?
It looks like it could be Zirkle, and so think about that, man. Think about it this way. Now, I don't know if Zirkle's on scholarship or not. We don't know that yet, okay? Or at least I don't. So you could have 3 different guys for 3 different positions: kickoff, PAT, and field goal, and then punter. So you could have your program at the point where there are competitions for all these things, and you wind up with 3 different solutions. Jack Benesley, I'm not going to, there's nothing to talk about there. This guy, we're not talking about coming in the 2020 season and we're not sure. No, that guy pretty much, man, from day one at Arkansas, he mattered. He is consistent. He is dependable. I don't mind missing kicks. I mind missing kicks when it matters. And this guy consistently made kicks when it mattered, okay? I'm not going to go on a rant. I'm just going to point out two of them. First of all, against Arkansas in 2020, they were pretty desperate for some points. He gave it to them. Against Alabama in the national championship game, when they needed points, they got them every time that guy walked onto the field. I don't think he missed a kick in that game. So I don't want to hear about. I mean, nobody's saying anything bad about him, but you got that part figured out. And if he misses kicks, unless it costs him the game, no. And that guy knows what he's doing. And I don't know the kid, so I'm just saying. Every single time that kid rolls out there, he's dependable.
He has been dependable. It's definitely, I think special teams has been an advantage for them the last couple of years, and
it should continue to be.
I don't see why that would change. I mean, I'm trying to think if there was any other notable thing at practice, because as you said, we do got to focus more on Oregon later in the week with those videos.
Right.
But I think they're in a good spot, and this weekend is going to be really they're going to learn so much about themselves this weekend. Those questions, offensive line looks like trust his left guard. He's still rolling out there.
But it doesn't matter, does it? I mean, he even said today, Kirby, during the press conference, that it's going to depend on how guys play during the game. I don't have a problem with that at all. It's just what it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I said on here a week or two ago that the 5 offensive linemen we see in the first game is not going to be the 5 offensive linemen, because it just hasn't been the last couple of years, and they're going to rotate guys. Injuries happen, so that starting 5 that we see against Oregon may not be the starting 5 even in the following week. They have the size at guard. They definitely have depth. I'm not concerned about that. And they may make an in-game adjustment. They did that in the national championship with Warren Erickson, Broderick Jones, and it worked out in their favor. So, it's funny how much, we're not going to talk. I'm not going to. It's funny how much Kirby has gotten criticism over the years on not being able to maybe make the right personnel choices. And people are talking about quarterbacks when they talk about that. But I think he's shown a willingness to pull the trigger on making a change if he really needs to.
No question.
So, in that regard, this is a championship program now.
Let me just say this real quick. He took Latavius Brini out of the Tennessee game and put Dan Jackson in there. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
I don't know if that changed the game, but I remember that very clearly. And that's just one example. Kirby Smart, not unlike Nick Saban, if you want to be critical of him or find things, I think you certainly can. I think sometimes, though, folks overdo particular criticisms because they have their view on things or whatever. He definitely makes changes, and during this Oregon game, the thing that he said this week or today that was the most. How many bikers do you almost hit, man? Someone's on your right back there. I just wonder.
Oh, man. Tim and I, we had a nonverbal conversation just a second ago.
It is, it's serious out there, man. You got to share those roads in Athens. You know what I mean?
Oh, no.
Uh-oh. Did you hit somebody?
It's been a day. It's been a day, Dean.
Hey, man. We got to overcome. We're going to have bad things are going to happen.
I'm overcoming a lot of things today.
Bad things are going to happen. A lot of things. We're going to get flat tires. We're going to, we're going to have bicyclists hit us. We're going to not have what we need from any particular fast food place that's a potential sponsor of this broadcast. We're going to have bad things happen, but we're going to prepare to win. Okay, we're going to prepare to win. I have
not deterred from the moment yet. So
what now?
That. I will say, you're going to lose me internet-wise here in about 30 seconds.
So let's wrap it up then. A good day, it seemed like, for the Dogs practicing. We've gone on too long. Make sure you're checking out Ryan's report. It's linked down below. Pick up get a link to DAWGSTRUCTION. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the website.